And I would like to introduce Dr. Chauhan. Dr. Chauhan is a research fellow at the Center for Space and Remote Sensing Research at National Central University, Taiwan. He has received his PhD in Environmental Sciences in 2019 from Sharda University. He has more than 10 years of research and teaching experiences into higher education. He has won multiple awards for his research papers, including highest citation paper award by Web of Science in 2020. He has published several research papers in many international journals of repute. I welcome Dr. Chauhan and welcome on behalf of Society for Research Development to deliver his talk in ICON MES 21. Over to you, Dr. Chauhan.
Good afternoon to all of you, all the committee members, all the participants, and myself, Akshansh Chauhan. Dr. Rohit has given some brief about me. And right now I'm working mostly on the air quality analysis, remote sensing analysis, the tools which were basically related to AI and machine learning. So my lab is working on those topics, and mostly I'm working on satellite data. So today I'm going to present my talk on the influence of anthropogenic activities and natural calamities over air quality, atmosphere, and meteorology of India. So as we start with this topic, the important thing for us right now is the climate change. So there are so many causes like unplanned land cover and land use activities, air, water, and soil pollution, rapid industrialization, growing population. So these things are basically leading the total cycle, all the cycles of the Earth towards the climate change. So the natural processes, they are changing, and that is called the climate change. And we can see the impact of these climate change by the hot topic like global warming, melting glaciers, meteorological imbalance, continuous droughts, extreme rainfall events, floods, landslides. These are some of the events which we are right now we are facing, the whole world is facing. And due to the climate change, the impacts are like the biodiversity is somehow it is affected by the climate change. The air pollution problem is rising. We have large amount of health issues, and also the climate change is impacting the economy of each and every nation. So all these things has raised an issue of sustainability. So for me, climate change is somehow related to the anthropogenic activities that create air pollution, that create change in the atmospheric conditions. So for me, I'm focusing most of the time on these topics. So because today I'm going to talk about India, so there are some key features of India that I want to talk right now. That it is surrounded by mostly in the northern and the western and eastern part, it is surrounded by major nations like Pakistan, Nepal, Bangladesh, and Bhutan. And in the three sides, in southern part, in western part, and eastern part, it is mostly surrounded by the oceans. In India, there are four seasons which we say the summer from March to May. Monsoon season is during June to September. Then the post-monsoon season during October to November, and the winters we usually consider during the time of December to January. And when we talk about the climatology, so most of the time the Indian subcontinent is affected by the westerly winds, and the temperature, the mean temperature is ranged between 23 to 30, but the maximum can reach up to 50, and in a high altitude region in the Himalayan side, it can reach into the minus or so. So all these things are the basic information behind of the Indian subcontinent. Is it possible to change these things? So, okay, let me explain. So, in India, when we talk about the atmospheric pollution, so there are a variety of issues like growing populations. In the recent years, the population growth is very high. We are moving towards 1.5 billion this time, and Then rapid urbanization to earn more money. The farmers, the poor people, they are shifting towards the big cities to earn more money, and land use, land cover changes. They are also impacting the. They are also creating the atmospheric pollution problems. Later on, the growing industry and energy sectors is also a big issue the for India, like as bricklayings, coal power plant, dust storms, mineral mining activities, biomass burning, forest fire, and cyclones. These are the major causes of the air pollutions in India. Among all these causes, right today, I'm going to present the atmospheric pollution problems related to dust storms, cyclones, and crop burning. So when we say about the crop residue burning, in before 1980s, most of the time farmers they harvest their crops by their hands. But after 1980s, due to this green revolution in India, the mechanized farming is uh, surpassing the manual one, and now so the mechanized farming it leaves a large amount of residue in the fields, open fields, and burning biomass burning or the crop residue burning is the easiest way to the farmers to remove the the residue inside or in the field. And this is also said by the farmers that the burnt the residue of the burnt biomass helps growing the fertility of the soil also. This is a misleading information among the farmer. So they usually do this thing. This is cheap and best. But at the other side, these biomass burning, they are basically emitting a large amount of CO2, CO, NOx, methane, and SO2 due to the westerly winds. Most of these biomass burning aerosols from the western and northern part, they moved towards the whole valley region of northern part of India, and even they sometimes they reaches up to the ocean parts in Bangladesh. And with this figure, we have tried to show how the biomass burning activity is increasing in last I almost 20 years, and we can see that during October and November there are a large amount of fire counts in the Punjab and Haryana region of India. So all these biomass burning, they are basically emitting large amount of gas. So and they are creating a health hazards for the whole population. And we studied this the biomass burning impact on, and we studied the black carbon concentration and dust emissions, and we found that the black carbon emission that was basically emitted by the biomass burning, that not only affect the western and northern part of India, that also affect the southern part of India. And we are the one that who basically predicted that, and not predicted, we also emphasize on this thing that this biomass burning is not only affecting the western part, Delhi region, but it is also affecting the southern part. It is also affecting the eastern part, and we are the one who first published this article, and we after analyzing 20 years of data sets of Mera Model 2. Then the other issue is the methane emission, and methane is one of the greenhouse gas. It is emitted by basically the paddy seasons. Methane is emitted by wetlands, and we found that during the biomass burning period, especially a sudden rise in the methane concentration we observed in the Punjab, Haryana, and Delhi region. Later on, we focused on the particulate matter concentration, and we found that due to the biomass burning in the northern part and western part of India, it affects the particulate matter concentration and CO2 in the southern part of India. And we found significant changes in the particulate matter concentration. And recently, I am we with some Japanese group and some US group, I am continuously measuring the PM concentration in the northern part of India, and we found that during the time of the late October and start of November, there is a big rise in the particulate matter concentration. In even in some places which are considered to be this healthier places have a large amount of greenery. The particulate matter concentration is really very high, and it can reach up to 400 microgram per meter cube. Later on, we've also found some relationship of the biomass burning and with tropical cyclones. So the second topic which I have chosen today is the tropical cyclone. So we know very well that global warming, the rise in the Earth's temperature, is a big issue nowadays. All the greenhouse gases, they are emitted by various sources, either by the natural sources or by the anthropogenic activities. They are helping in the rise of the in the Earth's temperature. And due to the rise in the temperature, there is a rise in the sea level rise. There is a rise in the temperature of the ocean, and these things are basically influencing the cyclones activity. And in recent years, there is a sudden rise in the intensity as well as the frequency of the cyclones. And this time, in this particular presentation, I have taken the examples of 4 cyclones that affected the southern as well as the eastern part of India, and some of them, they have also impacted deep in the northern part of India. So with these based on these studies, we have published around 4 papers in Marine Pollution Bulletin, where we have we show the impact of the cyclone Fani, and one in MDPI. And in recent year, I have also write a book chapter based on the impact of the cyclone on atmospheric and meteorological parameters. Among all the parameters, I found that the rise in the relative humidity, the change in the relative humidity, the variability of the relative humidity is one of the major influencing factor for the cyclone intensity. If there is a sudden rise in the relative humidity in the middle troposphere as well as at the higher troposphere, this will definitely impact the Earth budget of the oceans, and it helps in rising the temperature, and then it helps in the intensifying the cyclones. Later on, we also focused on the ozone part, and in most of the cases, we know that ozone is one of the very important gas for our Earth, because it in stratosphere or higher altitude region, it blocks all the UV radiation coming from the sun. And but if there is a ozone concentration, ozone at the lower or surface near to the surface, it's dangerous to the human health. So we found that during the cyclone seasons, there is a significant fall in the total ozone concentration. Especially, most of the concentration of ozone is found in the stratosphere. So the stratospheric ozone, basically it travels towards the troposphere due to high convective forces at the time of cyclones. And due to the rise in the ozone concentration close to the surface, we found that there is a sudden rise in the NO2 concentration. All these data, basically, I have plotted using the Google Earth engine, and this is Sentinel 5P data sets, which provide the nitrogen concentration in the whole troposphere. And later on, again, we also found that these cyclones, these tropical cyclones, they increases the particulate matter concentration, as well as we found that just before the cyclones, there is a rise in this particulate matter concentration, even at the places which are not close to the cyclone. Because of the high forces, the high wind speed close to the surface, the dust and the local sources, they help in the rise of the particulate matter in atmosphere. And the next topic which I'm going to show here is basically the dust storm. In India, dust is one of the major issue, and the wind, construction work, deforestation, stone crushers, they basically help in the rise of the dust concentration in the atmosphere. It also affects the radiative budget, because the dust, it basically absorbs the UV radiation in the atmosphere, and then it reflect back the infrared radiations towards the sky. That basically helps in the rise of the helps in the rise of the relative humidity of atmosphere, help in the rise of the temperature of the upper troposphere and the stratosphere, and that is not good for the whole atmosphere conditions, because at the altitude will increase, the temperature should increase, but due to the dust, we found some rise in the temperature of the high altitude region. Again, it also has an adverse impact on the human health. In 2018, we published one article in GeoHealth, and for this article, we basically analyzed the dust storm that occurred in May 2018. In May 2018, there was continuous back-to-back three dust storms that occurred in northern part of India. And recently, I discussed about the relative humidity, and we can see in the middle troposphere there is a sudden rise in the relative humidity, as well as we also found as the rise in the velocity or the omega increases, it helps in the rise of the relative humidity. And also found a sudden rise in the particulate matter concentration in Delhi, Agra, and Jaipur. Later on, we also analyzed change in the trace gases concentration.
Dr. Akshansh, 5 more minutes.
Okay. So we also found the change in the CO concentration, and here we have shown the change in the CO concentration anomaly, and we can see that just before the dust storm, there is a rise in the CO concentration. Even just after the dust storm, there was a rise. Also, we found a negative change in the ozone concentration. So overall, the dust mass density in the atmosphere, it impacted the ozone concentration at higher altitude, but at the lower altitude or near the surface where the human beings they are living, we found that the ozone concentration has 2 to 3 days of gap, and it helps rise in the ozone concentration. All these things leads us towards the recent topic of COVID-19. And on COVID-19, we analyzed so many things. We published around 4 to 5 papers. Among those 5 papers, I've shown here the 3 of my recent articles, where we have shown that the anthropogenic activities, the human activities, they are most of the time responsible for the emission of trace gases. They are also responsible for the particulate matter concentration. And we found that just because of the lockdown during the time of COVID-19 in India, there was a significant fall in the particulate matter concentration. And we are among some of the scientists who published this article, I think in the month of August last year. And in the month of May, we also published one article in Environmental Research, and where we have shown that not only in India, the human activities that was halted by the COVID-19 lockdown, they help improving the air quality of different cities of the world. And also we found some changes in the secondary aerosols like HCHO, which has very small residential time in atmosphere, but we also find some changes. And based on these things, so we concluded that most of the time the air quality is impacted by the human activities, and if there is a lockdown, the air quality will be increased. And then we further shift towards the impact of the surface ozone on the human health. And in recent year, 1 or 2 years, I saw that most of the time the scientists in the general population that discussed about the particulate matter concentration, because they said that if there is a rise in the particulate matter concentration, it will choke your lungs and it will lead you towards the death. But in case of ozone, we found that during the time of this last 1 or 2 years, the rise and the change in the ozone concentration that has shown a very good correlation with the number of deaths during the time of COVID-19. And with these things, we concluded most of the time that ozone, surface ozone, is more dangerous than the particulate matter concentration, because at the time of COVID-19, the patients, they have the problem of respiratory systems and ozone concentration that increasing their problems. And in this figure, we have shown that as the ozone concentration is high, just because of the dust, just because of the crop residue burning in the atmosphere, it is increasing the number of deaths. But the CO at the same time, the high CO concentration is not affecting the number of deaths, as well as the dust is not affecting the number of deaths. But if there is a rise in the ozone concentration near to the surface, it is creating chaos to the human health, and it is also affecting to the a number of deaths during the time of COVID-19. And we are very confident that we will be able to publish this particular work very soon, and we have submitted, and also we have got the acceptance for this particular article. So these were all about from my side, and based on all these analysis, my lab and I am working towards the analysis of weather extremes such as typhoons, drought, and forest fire. And I saw some of this time. I saw that there are some scientists who are basically working on the similar kind of topics. So our lab is very welcome to all of you. If you want to collaborate with us on some global issues, we are ready to work on that thing. Recently, I've started some work with the scientists of Vietnam, and we are focusing on the aerosols part this time. And this is all about my side. Thank you. And I shall be happy to take some good questions. So,
Dr. Chauhan, your presentation was great, and there is a good question from Randall for you. If you are seeing in your chat box, or should I read it for you?
yeah, I'm seeing in chat box. This is, what is your view on the methane release that is attributed to cattle rising in due to demand of beef in the market? It is sufficient if significant. So, if you will say me, if, because we talk about most of the time based on our analysis, but on this issue, I'm really very sure that this cattle market, for this industry of meat, they are responsible at a large scale for the methane emissions. And I never carried out that analysis for the methane emissions because there are some limitations. The size, the pixel size of satellite is very close, but it's very sure that the meat market, they are definitely responsible for the high methane emissions, and they have a large impact on this atmospheric cycles, because methane is one of the challenging gas for the whole atmosphere. And recently there are so many issues this time, and there is a big debate on this issue that it's better to be a vegan this time rather than a person who is eating meat, because we will save a large amount of emissions, and also that this industry is a big danger for the groundwater also,
Thank
because
you. Thank you, Dr. Chauhan. And I appreciate your gesture in answering Render's question. I'll appreciate further if you can share him few research papers who had done the methane emission release work related to meat industry or cattle industry. So this is perhaps the benefit of international conferences where we people across the globe connected together and will try to provide each other hand to hand for more productive research. We are very happy on behalf of Society for Research Development. I thank you, Dr. Chauhan, for your wonderful presentation. Thank you.
thank you, sir.
Looking forward to hear you again into upcoming conferences. Thank you. Thank you.